Are you somebody who can convey your value? Are you somebody who can shine through failure? Can you learn? Can you adapt? Are coachable is always important.
Welcome to Hired Not Fired by The Real Me. We help turn your human skills into superpowers, the skills AI can't replace, so you get noticed, get interviews, and get hired. Hey there, welcome back to the new episode of Hired Not Fired. And I am excited to bring Nick Smith back with more insight and perspectives on how to stand out and get noticed by some of the biggest companies out there. Nick is a recruiting talent acquisition professional with nearly a decade of experience hiring new grads, individual contractors, and executive technical talent at companies like Meta, formerly known as Facebook, Lucid Motors, Twitch, and Prime Video, where he's made immediate impact in tough to fill verticals, developed entire interview architecture for new teams, and everything in between. Welcome back, Nick.
Thanks so much, Deb. I had such a great time last time. Excited for our next chat.
Great. So did I. And I know you have so much more to share. So let's dive in. I
Awesome.
thought last time we spoke a little bit about, the resume, the initial stage, and how to get noticed. Let's talk a little bit more about the interview stage.
Mm.
Once someone does get that interview, what
Mhm.
changes from a recruiter's perspective?
I'm their advocate, 100%. I think the big thing is that main shift is at least where I've worked. I'm not sure. I can't speak to everybody, but once you're in that process, I am incentivized to get that role filled. Like it, point blank. That's just what it is. I want that role filled, and I want it filled with the best candidate or candidates if I have multiple openings. So I'll prep you where I can. I'll do what I can to make sure that you're as ready to go, that you're not going to get caught off guard, that you understand what's being looked for, while obviously maintaining an ethical playing field and not giving anybody any more or less than another candidate. But at the end of the day, I want that role filled. If you're qualified enough to get to the interview process, you're worth my time in preparing.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Now, when you think back on the feedback that you get for candidates who have stood out in a good way,
Hmm.
what did
Yeah.
they do consistently differently in interviews from those who were not as successful?
I guess just straight up, are you good at the job? Can you convey that? Right? If it's a technical job, are you answering questions correctly? Are you providing simple and direct solutions? Right? Obviously, if we're talking technically.
Mhm.
Um, but if we're talking, I guess maybe let's just say more nuanced. So on a behavioral side of things, are you somebody who is thoughtful, articulate? Um, are you somebody who can convey your value? Are you somebody who can shine through failure? Can you learn? Can you adapt? Coachable is always important, but obviously the higher you get up the ladder, I guess, you eventually are being hired to be the one doing the coaching. But in simple terms, are you somebody people want to work with? I think all of those kind of go into, the kettle being churned to see if it's the perfect stew.
Mhm. Yeah, there's those all important soft skills, which we
Yeah.
call power skills or human
Mm,
skills. We're calling them the foundational skills because
awesome.
without that adaptability, communication, learnability,
Yeah.
and coachability, it's really hard to shine with the technical skills, right, or whatever it is.
Yes. Yes.
So let me ask you another question about interviewing. What interview answers sound good but actually worry recruiters?
Um, Oof. I would say the number one that I can think of is um, being dishonest about failure and growth. I think I don't get it too often, but if you don't have an answer to tell me about a time when you made a mistake at work or you missed a deadline or whatever the version of failure we're prodding for, if you don't have an answer for that, or if you're kind of BSing your way through that to make it sound like you don't make mistakes, it is you might as well just cut the interview off, right? Like because it's just not real. It's not like I've had the privilege of working with some of the most incredibly talented and downright intelligent people. People with PhDs from the biggest universities, people with work experience building some of the most impressive technology that you interact with or see, and they fail. So if you're in the interview and you're not able to articulate that, or you're being dishonest, giant, giant red flag.
Now that I love that. That is such a great answer because it's probably something that you don't think about, but have an example of failing and what I always like to say and how you rebounded. Resilience is
Bingo.
a big thing people are looking for, right? It's not whether or
Yep.
not you fail, it's how you recover from failure. And that's what you're really looking for, I imagine, right?
Absolutely, but it's so much more than that, right? Like yes, failing is important, but what do you do with that, as you mentioned? And I
Yeah.
think the rebound is important, but like you are likely also not the first person to make this mistake. So are you able to create something, maybe a guardrail, maybe something that prevents this from happening again? Maybe not
Mm,
even just with you, but maybe on your team. Maybe there's a very specific thing in the system that you're working with that proves to be troublesome because maybe there's not great documentation. Are you the one who now creates the good documentation? Are you the one who then prevents, I don't know, however many more of these incidents from happening? Maybe your failure pointed out a vulnerability. And now, because you've patched the vulnerability, now you're saving money. Maybe now you're saving time. Maybe whatever it is, that stuff is incredibly important to highlight as well. Because I think what people maybe are doing when they're trying to hide their failures is they're missing the opportunity to show their success because the only successful people that I know that I've worked with are the ones who have risen from failure. And
mm,
it doesn't always have to be a phoenix story, but there are micro versions of that all the time. And if you're that person, if you can get hit in the mouth metaphorically and get back up and make sure it doesn't happen again or happens less frequently, that is so valuable.
mm. Well, that's great. What a great spin to put on failure. Now, how much do things like self-awareness, communication style, or openness to feedback face into hiring decisions, especially at scale?
Self-awareness is incredibly important. I have been in environments where a version of that is specifically assessed. Um, it's essentially like, are you waiting for somebody to tell you that you made a mistake, or are you identifying it yourself? Right? Are you saying, "Hey, I went down the wrong path. I realized I made a mistake. It's going to take me this amount of time and whatever it is to right the ship, and I'm gonna make sure that everything's all right." Or are you the person who in 2 months from now is in some review and you're then told, and maybe you're thinking to yourself, oh man, they found it, or maybe you're oblivious to it. But regardless of the latter, if you are self-aware and you are diagnosing in real time your work, if you're your biggest critic, you'll
Mm,
never have to worry about that. And it'll shine all the way through.
it's great. Now, last question. And again, I think I'm going to have you back if you're willing to come back
Okay.
because
Happy to.
I know there's more from our previous conversation. I know there's more you have to share. But for the last question for this batch, if
Yeah.
you could give job seekers one mindset shift going into interviews, especially in competitive companies, what would it be?
That if I get the interview, I got the job. You just point blank. I think that the hardest part for a candidate should be getting the interview. I think that you should, because interviewing is a skill, right? It's not your job. I mean, maybe for some people like me, where that's literally part of my job.
Yeah.
But for the most part, people are being asked to do something different in an interview. That's maybe not exactly a work sample, that's a one-to-one or, whatever. If you can get to the place where you are so prepared, you are so knowledgeable, you've left no stone unturned. You know the questions you're going to ask if given the opportunity at the end. All of these things, your I's dotted, your T's crossed. Walk into that interview confident that this is now yours. Now, arrogance is not attractive, and we don't want that. But there's a difference. There's 100% a difference between walking in nervous and meek, walking in confident, and walking in arrogant. And you want to find that middle ground, because if that is your mentality, then you get to gamify things in a way that you haven't before. Your job search becomes more fun because you're not only celebrating the job offer, you're celebrating, oh, I don't have to send another resume in. I just got another interview. It's a win. Create wins for yourself. And being somebody who's confident in interviews is going to create that process and make it a lot more palatable.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for all this wonderful advice for the listeners.
Thanks so much, Deb. It's always a pleasure.